It began like every other quiet summer in Maplewood Estates, the kind of suburban community where lawns were perfectly trimmed, gossip traveled faster than mail, and the HOA thought it ruled the world. But that peace shifted the day Dr. Leonard Hale moved into the corner house on Birchwood Lane. He arrived in a gleaming black Tesla, his silver hair slicked back, wearing a white coat as if he had just stepped out of a hospital. The HOA board was instantly impressed. Within days, his charming smile and confident tone had everyone calling him Dr. Hale. He told anyone who would listen that he had left a prestigious private clinic in the city to enjoy a quieter life of service. He promised to volunteer at community events, host free health checkups, and even help the HOA design a wellness program. The president, Mrs. Karen Wexler, called him the best thing that's ever happened to this community. Soon, his advice was law, from what the elderly should eat to how kids should play. But beneath the polished exterior, there were small things that didn't add up. His nameplate on the mailbox looked hastily printed. The license certificate framed in his living room had a faint coffee stain that suspiciously blurred the signature. And when one curious neighbor asked which hospital he'd worked for, he smiled, that perfect, rehearsed smile, and changed the subject. No one wanted to question the friendly doctor who attended every HOA meeting and fixed every argument with expert medical advice. Yet, for one sharp-eyed neighbor, something about Dr. Hale's story didn't feel right. And that small doubt would soon unravel the entire neighborhood's peace. By dawn, word of the fake doctor had spread faster than wildfire. Phones buzzed, inboxes filled, and Maplewood's Facebook group overflowed with outrage. But while most of the neighborhood demanded answers, HOA President Karen Wexler was already in crisis mode. She wasn't thinking about justice. She was thinking about control. The board gathered in the clubhouse before sunrise. The blinds were drawn tight, coffee cups half empty, and everyone spoke in hushed tones. Karen stood at the head of the table, her voice clipped and icy. "We are not letting this become a public scandal. The community's reputation is at stake. Property values will drop, reporters will swarm. We cannot have that." Mark Sanders slammed his palm on the table. "Karen, this isn't about property values. We harbored a criminal. The neighbors deserve the truth." Karen's eyes flashed. "And what truth is that, Mark? That we appointed him? That I gave him authority to handle residents' health issues? We'll look like fools." The others shifted uncomfortably. None of them wanted to admit they'd been duped. So Karen laid out her plan: delete meeting recordings, scrub the HOA website, issue a carefully worded statement. Dr. Hale has resigned due to personal matters. No mention of fraud, no mention of the police investigation. Just polite silence. By afternoon, she sent out the official email blast. It read like a funeral notice written by a lawyer. "We thank Dr. Leonard Hale for his contributions to our community wellness programs. We wish him the best in his future endeavors." Evelyn read it twice, fury rising in her chest. She stormed across the street and confronted Karen in her driveway. "You're lying to everyone again," she said, her voice trembling with rage. "You're protecting your pride, not this community." Karen crossed her arms. "You don't understand what's at stake, Evelyn. The HOA's credibility." "The HOA's credibility?" Evelyn cut her off. "A man almost died, and the only thing you care about is your reputation." For the first time, Karen's mask cracked. Her voice broke as she whispered, "If this gets out, I'm finished." Evelyn stared at her for a long moment, then turned away. Maybe that's what it takes for this place to finally change. That night, Evelyn sent an anonymous tip to a local journalist, along with every document she'd gathered. Within 48 hours, the story was headline news. "Fake doctor exposed in Maplewood HOA. Board accused of cover-up." The cameras arrived before Karen could draft her next statement. Neighbors stood on sidewalks giving interviews. Reporters shouted questions. And the once pristine gates of Maplewood Estates had become a stage for scandal. For weeks, Maplewood Estates lived in fear and disbelief. The man once trusted with their lives had vanished, leaving behind a trail of forged documents, broken trust, and a community fractured beyond repair. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said he fled the state. Others whispered he'd changed his name again and disappeared overseas. But one cold November morning, everything changed. A breaking news alert flashed across every TV in the county. Fugitive fake doctor arrested in Colorado. The image on the screen was unmistakable. Leonard Hale, or rather, Eric Dalton, in handcuffs, his once impeccable suit replaced by an orange jumpsuit. He'd been caught during a traffic stop, driving a stolen vehicle under yet another alias. In the trunk, police found a briefcase filled with fake IDs, prescription pads, and cash. His double life had finally collapsed. When the news reached Maplewood, the entire neighborhood seemed to exhale. Not relief exactly, but a weary kind of closure. Karen Wexler resigned that afternoon, stepping down with a tear-streaked statement about betrayal, regret, and misplaced trust. The HOA board was dissolved pending investigation, and for the first time in years, the residents voted to form a new, independent community council. At the next neighborhood meeting, smaller, quieter, held in Evelyn's backyard instead of the clubhouse, the tone was different. No speeches, no titles, no arrogance. Just neighbors sitting in folding chairs, talking like human beings again. Evelyn spoke last. "We were fooled because we wanted to believe," she said softly. "We wanted someone to make us feel safe, even if that safety was a lie. But the truth always finds its way out, no matter who tries to bury it." Silence hung in the air for a moment, heavy and honest. Then, one by one, people began to nod. Weeks later, Evelyn received a letter in the mail, a formal notice from the state attorney's office. Eric Dalton had pled guilty to multiple charges of fraud, identity theft, and practicing medicine without a license. He was sentenced to 12 years in prison. On the back of the letter, in an enclosed evidence bag, was a single item recovered from his home, the note found taped to his door. "I only wanted to belong." Evelyn stared at the words for a long time before locking them away in a drawer. Because for all the chaos he caused, the note wasn't wrong. It was pathetic, tragic, and human. In the end, Maplewood rebuilt, slowly, cautiously. The HOA became transparent, neighbors became friends again, and no one forgot the lesson written in betrayal. That titles, charm, and confidence mean nothing without truth behind them. And though the house on Birchwood Lane sat empty for months, overgrown and quiet, it stood as a silent monument to everything they had lost, and everything they had learned. The story hit the morning news like a thunderclap. Fake doctor scandal rocks Maplewood Estates. HOA president accused of cover-up. Community duped by man with forged medical license. Every local network ran the footage. The shaky phone video of the HOA meeting where Evelyn confronted Hale, his trembling voice, the crowd shouting, "Fake!" Within hours, national outlets picked it up. Satellite vans rolled into the neighborhood, cameras pointed at the once tranquil streets of Maplewood. Neighbors who had once smiled at each other in passing now avoided eye contact, afraid of being interviewed or blamed. Reporters swarmed the clubhouse gates, shoving microphones through the railings. Children watched from porches as their parents whispered about lawsuits and resignations. At the center of it all was Karen Wexler. The woman who once strutted through HOA meetings like a queen now found herself hunted by the press. Every time she stepped outside, cameras followed. "Mrs. Wexler, did you knowingly defend a fraud? Were you aware Dr. Hale had no medical license? Do you plan to resign?" She refused to answer, hiding behind dark sunglasses and a brittle smile. But the mask was gone. Her neighbors, her friends, looked at her like a stranger. Meanwhile, Evelyn Cooper became an unlikely hero. She never sought the spotlight, but when the reporters came to her door, she spoke plainly. "I didn't do this for attention," she said, her voice steady. "I did it because we were lied to. He wasn't a doctor. He was a predator of trust, and our HOA helped him." The video went viral overnight. Behind the scenes, investigators confirmed everything. The man known as Dr. Leonard Hale was actually Eric Dalton, a former medical assistant who had been fired a decade earlier for falsifying patient records. He'd moved from state to state under different names, using bits of real doctors' identities to build fake careers. When police searched his house on Birchwood Lane, they found stacks of forged documents, unlicensed medications, and an open suitcase, half-packed. He'd been planning to flee. The HOA board scrambled to control the fallout. 3 members resigned within a week. Karen held a tearful press conference on the clubhouse steps, her voice shaking as she read a statement. "We were deceived like everyone else. I never intended to mislead this community." But the crowd wasn't sympathetic. Someone shouted, "You protected him." Another yelled, "You silenced us." As the shouting grew louder, Karen's composure cracked. Cameras caught her whispering under her breath. "He promised me he was real." That clip became the most replayed moment of the entire scandal. By the end of the month, Maplewood Estates wasn't the idyllic neighborhood it once was. For sale signs sprouted like weeds. Trust was gone, replaced by suspicion and gossip. And the HOA, once feared and obeyed, was now the town's biggest embarrassment. But for Evelyn, justice wasn't about humiliation. It was about truth. And though the storm had torn through her quiet little street, she knew one thing for sure. The worst wasn't over yet. Because the man who called himself Dr. Hale still hadn't been found. The next HOA board meeting was supposed to be routine: budget updates, landscaping disputes, the usual Maplewood monotony. But by the time the clock struck 7, the clubhouse was packed wall to wall. Neighbors who hadn't attended a meeting in years filled every chair, their voices low and tense. Everyone knew something was coming. Evelyn Cooper sat near the front, a manila envelope clutched tightly in her hands. Beside her, Vice President Mark Sanders looked uneasy but determined. Across the room, HOA President Karen Wexler sat straight-backed at the head table, her pearl necklace gleaming like armor. And next to her, Dr. Leonard Hale, pale, silent, his once polished confidence now paper-thin. Karen cleared her throat. "Before we begin tonight's agenda," Evelyn stood. "I have something to say." Karen frowned. "Evelyn, please, we've been over this." Evelyn slammed the envelope onto the table. "No, we haven't." Her voice cut through the murmurs like glass. "You wanted proof? Here it is." She pulled out the printed documents, the obituary, the state medical board report, and the fake license certificate. She held them up for all to see. The real Dr. Leonard Hale died 7 years ago in Michigan. The man sitting next to you stole his name, his credentials, and his license number. The room erupted. Gasps, whispers, someone shouted, "Are you serious?" Karen's face went white. She snatched the papers, flipping through them as if the truth might rearrange itself if she stared hard enough. "This can't be right," she stammered. "There must be—" Evelyn cut her off. "I checked with the state medical board. They confirmed it. There's no licensed physician named Leonard Hale in this entire state." All eyes turned to him. Hale didn't move. His jaw clenched, his knuckles white against the table. Finally, he looked up and smiled that same hollow, rehearsed smile. "You don't understand," he said quietly. "I never meant to hurt anyone." "Then who are you?" Mark demanded. Hale hesitated. For a moment, it seemed like he might confess, but instead, he rose slowly to his feet, his voice trembling just slightly. "You people wanted a hero. I gave you one. I helped this community. I made it better." Karen whispered, "Leonard, please tell them this isn't true." But the crowd wasn't buying it. Phones were out, recording every word. Someone shouted, "He's a fraud!" Another yelled, "Call the police!" Hale turned toward the exit, but two residents stepped in front of the door. Panic flickered in his eyes. The room felt smaller by the second. Evelyn's voice was steady and cold. "You played with people's lives. That man could have died because of you." Hale's mask cracked at last. His voice broke as he whispered, "He almost did." Karen stumbled back, covering her mouth. Her perfect composure finally shattered as the weight of her blind trust crashed down. By the time the police arrived, Hale had already slipped away through the clubhouse's side exit, vanishing into the night, leaving behind his stethoscope, his fake license, and a neighborhood forever changed. The next morning, a single sheet of paper was found taped to his front door. In neat handwriting, it read, "I only wanted to belong." It happened on a warm Sunday afternoon during the HOA's family picnic. Kids ran through sprinklers, neighbors grilled burgers, and laughter filled the park. Dr. Leonard Hale stood under a white canopy, chatting with the HOA board as if nothing in the world could disturb his calm. He looked untouchable, charming, polished, admired. Then the scream shattered everything. From across the field, a woman shouted, "Call 911!" Her husband, Tom Reynolds, a middle-aged resident known for his jogging routine, had collapsed near the walking trail. Within seconds, people crowded around. Panic rippled through the crowd like wildfire. Karen Wexler rushed toward the scene, shouting, "Someone get Dr. Hale!" All eyes turned to him. This was his moment, the perfect chance for the neighborhood's beloved doctor to prove his worth. Hale froze for just a second too long. Then, with forced urgency, he ran forward, pushing through the crowd. "Give him space. I'm a doctor," he barked. He knelt beside Tom, checked his pulse, and pressed on his chest. Wrong rhythm, wrong placement. Evelyn Cooper, watching from behind, gasped. She knew CPR, and what she saw was chaos. Hale's hands trembled. He counted under his breath but missed beats, pressed too hard, too fast. Tom's lips were turning blue. Evelyn couldn't take it anymore. She shoved through the circle. "You're doing it wrong!" she shouted, pulling him aside. "Move," Hale stammered. I have it under control." "No, you don't!" Evelyn snapped, dropping to her knees. "Call an ambulance now!" She began compressions, firm, steady, rhythmic, as Hale stumbled backward, pale and shaking. The sirens wailed in the distance. When the EMTs arrived, they took over quickly. Hale stood off to the side, silent, clutching his stethoscope like a lifeline. A paramedic glanced at him and asked, "You a doctor?" Hale nodded weakly. The medic frowned. "Then you should have known better than that." The words hit him like a bullet. As the ambulance drove away, the crowd turned toward him, confused, whispering. Karen stepped forward, trying to smooth things over. "He was just caught off guard," she said, forcing a laugh that fell flat. But the damage was done. Evelyn stood up, chest heaving, her eyes locked on him. "A real doctor doesn't forget how to save a life," she said coldly. The next day, screenshots began circulating in private messages, Evelyn's emails to the state medical board, the video someone had taken during the incident, Hale's panicked expression. For the first time since he arrived, Dr. Leonard Hale didn't show up to the HOA meeting, and for the first time, people began to say the word out loud: fake. If Maplewood Estates had a queen, it was Karen Wexler, the HOA president. Her word was law, and her loyalty to Dr. Hale became almost religious. After the rumors began spreading, Karen called an emergency HOA meeting to put an end to the nonsense. The clubhouse was packed that evening. Neighbors whispered nervously, clutching paper cups of coffee while Karen stood at the front, perfectly composed, pearls glinting under the ceiling lights. Beside her sat Dr. Hale, his white coat replaced by a crisp navy suit, his posture immaculate. "Let's clear the air," Karen began, her voice sharp and commanding. "Dr. Hale has been unfairly accused by a few individuals spreading baseless rumors. He's a respected physician who's brought health, safety, and compassion to our community. I won't tolerate slander." Murmurs filled the room. Evelyn Cooper raised her hand, her face pale but steady. Karen, all I asked was to see proof of his license. That's not slander. That's enough, Karen snapped, her smile tightening. We don't demand papers from our neighbors. What's next? Checking birth certificates? Laughter rippled through part of the room, mostly the loyalists who trusted Karen implicitly. But others stayed silent, uneasy. Evelyn sank back into her chair, fury and disbelief washing over her. After the meeting, Karen doubled down on her defense. She began sending HOA newsletters praising Hale's volunteer medical service. She posted smiling photos of him taking blood pressures, handing out vitamins, giving wellness talks. She even proposed a new HOA committee, the Health and Safety Task Force, chaired by none other than Dr. Hale himself. Behind closed doors, Karen was almost protective, even territorial, about him. When her vice president quietly suggested verifying Hale's background, just to calm people down, Karen shot him a glare that could have cut glass. "Leonard is my recommendation," she hissed. "He has done more for this HOA in 3 months than the rest of you in 3 years." But even as she defended him, cracks were forming in her composure. The HOA began receiving anonymous emails, screenshots of non-existent hospital listings, fake addresses, and a forged medical diploma template that looked eerily familiar. Karen deleted them all without reading past the first line. The next morning, as she drove past Hale's house, she caught a glimpse of him through the window, not in his polished suit, but in a faded t-shirt, holding a whiskey glass at 10 a.m., staring at something on his laptop with a look of sheer panic. She looked away, pretending not to notice, because in her mind, Leonard Hale couldn't be a fraud. If he was, that meant she had handed the entire community's trust to a liar, and that Karen Wexler would never admit. The morning after the failed rescue, Maplewood Estates didn't wake up to birdsong. It woke up to whispers. Every driveway, every mailbox, every porch carried the same uneasy question. Who is Dr. Leonard Hale, really? Evelyn Cooper wasn't one to let rumors linger. She was old school, the kind who believed that truth, once uncovered, should burn through the lies like sunlight through fog. Sitting at her kitchen table with a mug of black coffee, she opened her laptop and began to dig. First, she checked the state medical board database. She typed Leonard Hale. No results. She refined the search, by county, by city, by nearby states. Still nothing. Then she searched for Dr. Leonard Hale, St. Matthew's Hospital. That name again, the one he always dropped with such pride. The result? A single archived staff directory from 5 years ago. Her eyes scanned the names until she froze. There was a Dr. Leonard Hale listed, but the photo wasn't him. The man in the hospital directory was older, balding, and, according to a quick obituary search, had died 7 years ago. Evelyn's stomach dropped. She grabbed her phone and snapped photos of the evidence, hands trembling. The next step was the address on his supposed clinic card, 132 Willowbrook Plaza, Suite 6. She drove there that afternoon. The plaza was half abandoned, windows boarded up, a faded "for lease" sign hanging crookedly over the door. Suite 6 was nothing but dust and silence. She took more photos. Then she noticed something chilling, a crumpled piece of mail lying on the floor just inside the glass door, addressed to Leonard Hale, D.O. No return address, no clinic logo, just a postmark from another state. That evening, Evelyn called the HOA vice president, Mark Sanders, one of the few who had grown skeptical too. "He's using a dead man's license," she whispered. "I can prove it." Mark hesitated. "Karen won't believe it. She'll protect him." "I don't care if she believes it," Evelyn said, her voice hardening. "The board will. And if they don't—" She paused, her eyes narrowing at her computer screen. "The police will." Meanwhile, across the street, inside the corner house on Birchwood Lane, Leonard Hale sat alone in the dark. His curtains were drawn, his Tesla untouched, his phone buzzing relentlessly with messages he didn't dare open. On his desk sat a torn manila folder. Inside it, a fake diploma, a forged license number, and a passport from another name he hadn't used in years. He poured himself another drink, muttering to the empty room. It wasn't supposed to go this far. But it had. And Maplewood Estates was about to find out exactly who their trusted doctor really was. It started with whispers, small, harmless, almost accidental. A few neighbors at the morning coffee group mentioned that they couldn't find any trace of Dr. Leonard Hale online. No hospital listings, no medical board certifications, not even a photo from his supposed years of practice. "Maybe he's just private," one woman said. But the way her voice dropped told another story. Curiosity was turning into unease. By the end of the week, the HOA community forum was buzzing. Someone posted anonymously, "Anyone know which hospital Dr. Hale worked at? Can't find him anywhere." The post was deleted within minutes, replaced by a warning from HOA President Karen Wexler. "Please refrain from spreading misinformation. Dr. Hale is a valued member of our community and a licensed professional." But the damage was done. The more the HOA tried to silence talk, the louder it became behind closed doors. People began to notice oddities. Hale's supposed medical office address led to an abandoned strip mall. His car never left the driveway before noon, and when one resident asked him for a referral to a specialist, he smiled awkwardly and said he wasn't taking patients right now. Then came the strange visits. Late at night, unfamiliar cars would pull into Hale's driveway, always leaving within minutes. Some swore they saw him exchanging envelopes. Others claimed he argued on the phone, pacing in his backyard, shouting about licenses and numbers. Mrs. Evelyn Cooper, the retired nurse, grew more convinced something was terribly wrong. She quietly gathered what she found: screenshots, photos, and a printed copy of that deleted HOA post. But when she tried to bring her concerns to the next HOA meeting, President Wexler cut her off mid-sentence. "Evelyn, please," Karen said with a brittle smile. "You're overreacting. Dr. Hale is one of us." Evelyn's voice trembled with frustration. "Then show us his license. Just once. Let us see it." The room went silent. Hale smiled from his seat, calm and cold. "I assure you, Mrs. Cooper," he said, his eyes locking on hers, "my credentials are in perfect order." But that smile, that perfect practiced smile, only deepened the chill crawling through the room. Outside, as the meeting ended, a neighbor whispered, "If he's lying about that, what else is he hiding?" The question lingered like a shadow over every home on Birchwood Lane. By early autumn, Dr. Hale had become the HOA's pride. His charisma was infectious, and when he proposed hosting a community health fair on the clubhouse lawn, everyone jumped at the idea. Mrs. Wexler, the HOA president, announced it in bold letters on every bulletin. Free health checkups, hosted by Dr. Leonard Hale, MD, former chief of cardiology at St. Matthew's Hospital. The day arrived bright and sunny, the kind of morning that made the neighborhood look like a postcard. Tables were lined with fruits, bottled water, and blood pressure machines. Hale stood in the center, wearing his pristine white coat, stethoscope hanging loosely around his neck like a badge of honor. He shook hands, smiled for photos, and spoke with the calm assurance of someone who had seen it all. Neighbors lined up eagerly for his free exams. He took blood pressures, gave casual diagnoses, and scribbled notes on a yellow pad, handing out advice like candy. "You need more potassium. Cut down on red meat. Walk 20 minutes every morning." His voice was soothing, almost hypnotic. People believed every word, but not everyone was charmed. Mrs. Evelyn Cooper, a retired nurse who had worked in the city hospital for 30 years, watched him from across the tent. Something about his technique bothered her. He held the stethoscope wrong. His blood pressure readings were sloppy, and when a neighbor fainted from the heat, he froze, eyes wide, hands trembling, before pretending to call for help. Evelyn's instincts screamed something's not right. Later, when she quietly asked Hale where he'd trained, his answer came too fast, too polished. Johns Hopkins? Class of 2002. She smiled politely, but as he turned away, she whispered to herself, "Then why don't you sound like it?" That night, while the HOA celebrated the most successful event of the year, Evelyn sat at her desk, typing Dr. Leonard Hale, St. Matthew's Hospital into her old laptop. No records came up, no staff listing, no publications, just silence. And that was when the first crack appeared in Dr. Hale's perfect mask.